a handout, Ryan, have a copy?
I do not.
Oh, no, that's yours.
Yes, now I do.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys all have handout?
Here, do you need more? Here,
No,
I'll
no,
do
no,
this.
no, somebody will probably will be sitting here, David probably.
Here, I'll do this. Actually, my son's small, sort of.
Soon as she gets back in the door, we'll start.
She probably, don't close.
Yeah, she was calling Brian to see.
Running a little late, start without me.
We're gonna start right now. All right, we'll convene the Board of Education study session at 5:06.
Kathy, you want to start it?
Sure. Okay. This is a session just focused on our budget. Let's go to the next slide, Connie.
Oh, my.
If you recall, during when we were submitting our first interim report, it was a qualified budget, and we stated that we needed to do some things in order to make sure that we would have a positive certification by the second interim, which is, by the way, today and on the agenda today. We completed a couple of things in order to get to positive certification. I think right now I'd like to pass it on to Connie, who will, in the next slide, describe some of the good news pieces we received from the governor, which assisted in getting to that positive certification, as well as some surprises that were not as exciting and positive from the governor. But we will get to a positive certification later on today. So Connie, why don't you go to this next slide and talk about that?
So I'm just go through this,
I don't
skip
think we
this
need
one.
that.
Yeah, skip one. This
Yeah,
is rule
keep going,
regulation,
yeah.
you know, requirement for the second interim report, okay? So, as Kathy mentioned that there is changes from first interim and second interim. So the change we were starting with the state guideline to state, this one, okay, state guideline for the budget, okay? So when governor released the 1920 preliminary budget, he revised the assumption for the revenue as well as the expenditure the district can, California Public School District can prepare the second interim report. The first one for revenue side is the COLA, which apply to each per student we receive from the state. So this year, there's no change, but the 1920, 2021, each year there's a little increase, which means that per students at the COLA, we will receive more money per student compared with this year's. The second change is related to the cost is going to positive change, which means that the governor decreased the district contribution for the certificate employees pension plan because the state willing to contribute $3 billion to reduce the current short and long-term liability. So as a result, the district contribution from the next 2 years actually reduced 1%, around 1% each year. So which means this percentage is apply each dollar amount the district issue or pay the certificate employee. The third one is surprise but not favored change for our budget, which is actually we require put more money. So RRMA is routine restorative maintenance, which means that the district who receive the state facility funding will required to set aside certain general fund budget to keep and maintain our district facility, district-wide facility. So that percentage is 3% for the total general fund. I know that because the percentage seem a little bit confusing with the required adequate 3% reserve. So if you have any question there, I can explain later more detail. Based on the assumption changes, we revised the multi-year projection. And this is a new one based on the increased quota, decrease certificate pension plan, and increase the 1% routine maintenance set-aside requirement. So in addition, we also, cabinets also take action for the reduced cost. The budget incorporated in this second interim including the district-wide, district office supply account 15% reduction for this year and a 20% supply account reduction in the future years. The reason we're focused on starting the supply because there's some commitment for the other account which we may or may not. Okay. So this is the second interim report on how the district allocated our budget. So 81% of our total budget is personnel and benefit. That including the classified certificate salary and the benefit including the pension, STIRS, PERS, health insurance, works comp, all the benefit, okay? So that come up at 81%, and our personnel cost is very stabilized over the years. It's all between 81, 82, and 83, depending on which period of time. And then supplies and the other major allocation for the budget is service and operation. It's including everything: utility, travel and conference, consultant, communication, internet, and so keep our school operate. So then before any questions so far for second interim, because we're going to turn into another section of the study section. So up to now, so at this moment, as Kathy said, according to the state increase the projection, decrease the cost contribution rate, and then the district cut, we were able to from the first interim the $1 million deficit in 3 years, and come up with the second interim, the third year is $10,760. So we was tonight at the regular board meeting, we will request the board to approve positive certification, which means that as of second interim, as of today, the district were able to meet the current financial obligation in the next 2 years, which is 19, 20, 2021. Okay.
Ask questions as we go, or?
Yeah, let's answer it because the second presentation is kind of a little bit different. So as of right now, any of you guys have any question regarding the second interim report?
We will have here listed the budget reductions, special education, legal fee.
Yeah, that's the next
Is that for
section.
all 3 years, is that for 1 year, is that?
So
Yeah.
let us get to that,
Okay.
yeah.
I have a quick question on that slide. So as far as the revenue,
Yeah,
seems the revenue is dipping next year, and then it goes back up again. Why is that?
yeah. I think the revenue is a combination with the COLA, ADA. Okay, so as you guys know, we're declining enrollment. So that may be impact, and then the 30 years is, remember, COLA increase again. So the increase of the revenue and the offset with the projection of decline enrollment may be leading to the positive. But I can go give you detail in the calculation so that you can see what we come up with. Okay.
Just to let you know, the reason there's a large drop in 1920 is 1819 has one-time money, and wage line money went up, but 1890 had all that extra one-time money in it.
Okay, what was the one-time money for?
One-time discussion on the money. Remember the one-time discussion on money for the $184 for this year,
Okay,
and then that one got away.
yeah.
So there were three things that allowed you to fill that budget gap. One was the COLA, the increase in COLA, correct?
That's correct.
The other was a decrease in the supply budget,
That's correct.
and the third,
So
Now,
the
go to that
decrease, the,
slide, Connie.
go to,
so I was
okay.
trying to see which slide that was on. I was
It's
trying to
the,
make sure I
exactly that
remember.
next
Okay.
slide. No, no, not that one. Keep going forward, not that one. Next one?
Yeah.
That's the one. So we did those already. And, the special education legal fees, as Ed just asked, Darvin, what could you say about that?
So that was specifically in this year, Ed, where we basically did an audit on our legal fees. We realized that last year we had some exorbitant costs there. Looked at the attorneys that were providing the services for us, and with Jennifer coming in, worked with researching other attorney firms that could provide similar services at a more cost-effective basis. And so we went from basically a $300 an hour attorney firm down to about $190 an hour firm.
I found cheaper attorney.
We did, providing the same quality of
Yes.
services. All right.
Is there a projection on how much that's anticipated to save?
Depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah, and I think what we wanted to do was just wait till year end to be able to provide a comparison to that.
Bob, because of, we had a less expensive attorney, did not impact our quality, thanks to Jennifer. And for the budget, we do decrease our projection, because last year is a special year. So we already decreased our projection, but in order to tell you the actual, then we have to wait until a year, because sometimes the bill comes us too late.
Can you tell me how much you decreased the projection by?
Let's ask
Okay.
David, he just, stepped away, yeah.
We anticipated you
You're
asking.
right.
Yeah, he's probably prepared, take the paperwork.
Connie, COLA is going up by, not quite 1%.
That's correct.
What dollar amount is that? Is that, 3.6?
So the dollar amount is difficult to say, because the dollar amount is applied how much they pay per student current year. So you have K to 3, 4 to 6, 8 to 9. So I will give you detailed breakdown, so you have it clear.
Do you do a projection on that? I assume
Yes,
you do a projection.
yes, we do. All the projection, Lego has a spreadsheet in the step-by-step how to project revenue. They will use this guideline to audit us, because the budget that we prepare, Lego is gonna audit. They are not saying, okay, where you could put the money in revenue projection from. But I will sit down with you, so you have more idea, go through step by step.
Can you go back to that slide for me?
Connie, quick question.
Yeah,
What does RRMA stand for again?
yeah, routine restricted maintenance account. Yeah, which slide?
So,
is it?
this slide, the COLA,
Oh, okay, yeah,
cost of living, and
yeah.
so the percentages for the cost of living, that is percent of what?
Per students,
So-
allocation per year.
So we have an increase
Yes,
of 3.7% in 2018-2019,
that's correct.
and then only this is the first interim, so the second interim, we have a 3.46
That's correct.
that we pay,
We receive.
that we receive.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so then,
By the way, the 3.46 is still an estimate, so the final number available in about a month.
but that's a number all the California school districts say that, told that we can use that as our second interim projection for revenue.
So there was an increase
Yes,
in contribution from the state to us for the COLA, right?
yeah, yeah, yes.
Does that cover the cost of living, or are we still, did it meet it? Or, I know it's more, but did it
Mhm.
meet what we're paying for the cost of living, or is it still not
Yeah.
equal to what we're paying?
My personal
what we're-
opinion is no, because why, when we operate school district, the first increase STRS increase, everything, the health insurance increase, right? Works comp rate increase, the 3.46 next year may not. If also the number of students we have, if we have huge decline in enrollment, then that's why we're deficit spending. So their quota itself, that's why the assembly member, they come up with a lot of bills to say, okay, now the LCFF funding formula is the end, okay? So can we create a new funding formula, increase the base? Right now, the state only gave us a quota only. So they want a new bill say that increased base is increase per student's contribution from the state, then add a quota, so that district will receive more money.
And the percentages under the STRS and PERS, or you just have STRS up here,
Yeah.
that's the percent that we pay into the contribution for the pensions.
That's correct.
And so the change is that almost 1% less that we have to pay in that's being supplemented by the state?
Compared with first interim. The first, at the first interim, when we prepare the, first interim have board approved, we are required to contribution for next year is 18.13%. So now in the second, say we will contribute only 17.10, which means that our budget for the certificate employees pension plan will be less.
So our contribution is less.
Yes, right.
But what they get into their pension is not less because it's being supplemented.
That's right.
It's just that less is coming from us.
That's correct. Each employee, when each of the certificate employee in this room retire, their formula depend on their number of service, depend on their last salary. It's a formula. So their retirement benefit will not.
That's the 1%
Yes.
But
Which
it's
is
still
just
an estimate.
temporary
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Depends on what the markets do, it depends on
definitely.
whether the legislature actually appropriates that money or not.
That's correct.
But these are the numbers that the state, county give us that we have to use for our budget preparation. So that one district doesn't estimate 20%, another estimate 5%.
Any question? Okay, so before we move forward, then we will go to second part of this section. The second part is we 3 years is adequate requires to do the multi projection as a part of the report, and then June, as you know, we will we're submitted for board to adopt the 1920 adult budget. Then we will have another 3-year requirement. So now the June budget adoption 3 year at this moment is a 4th year. So for the planning purpose, do you have enough for a copy? I have a lot here, handout here. Okay. So we have shared with representative from MT and CA about our estimate, and then we this is our last reversion based on the second interim report, which will board approve tonight. And as you can see that we do have some challenge ahead of us. So our focus is the 21-22. Right now we project around $2.9 million in the deficits. Okay. So what is our plan? Because we want to know that June now is middle of March and June is come soon, and then based on the report requirement for the public hearing by the end of May, most likely we need to have a draft of the adult budget. So the cabinet in the next couple minutes or longer, the cabinet will share some idea how can we gradually close this deficit. Okay. So I was starting with the district-wide supply allocation.
Connie, we skipped a slide.
We already finished.
The bullets
Yeah. This one we just mentioned. We want to. This is.
Let's talk about.
Okay.
I need to ask about one of these assumptions. Employee benefits, going from 18-19 to 19-20 is about $500,000.
Yes.
Then, from 2021 to 21-22, it's about $500,000. But in 19-20, it jumps $1 million between 20 and 21. How? How does that do that?
You mean the benefit or you mean the?
The benefit package goes from 19-20,
Yes.
11,554,007 to 12,485,748. That's $1 million jump.
That's correct. Mr. Hammond, before I answer your question, I will directly look at the first category of expenditure, certificate salary. When you look at the certificate salary from the 1920, 2021, you can see that over $500,000 jump. The reason is, as the board know that the board approved MOU between the certificate, between MTA and the district for the class size, and only effective for 2 years, which is 18-19 and 19-20. The MOU is only covered 2 years. So without a formal action, we assume that the MOU will end at 19-20. So then, as a result, we have to increase class because without MOU, our class is 2241 for the.
I'm not sure I understand that. Let me go back. I would understand that were salary, but the salary jump is $500,000.
That's
It's
right.
the benefit.
Yes.
The benefit jumps. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not salary.
That's correct. The benefit including STIRS, PERS, health insurance, okay? So the health insurance pieces from this year to the 1920, 2021 is jump another 5.2 plus 6.4. So the benefit from 1920 to 1819 is increased 5.2%. Then from 1920, 2021 is increased another 6.4. So basically 5.2, 6.4, 11.6. So the benefit itself is increased 11.6%. And then we can give you the detail each line item to give you how much each line item increase. But I'm just telling you this because of the percentage for the health insurance increase, the PERS increase, and STIRS increase, then come up with this the unusual normal about $1 million increase. Then we can give you breakdown. Okay, so we're not talking about the 1920, we're talking about 2021. So health insurance over $6 million for 11% increase. That is already $600,000.
And I understand your explanation. When I look at things that move, I like to see them move relative to a certain amount. That looks normal.
Okay.
This jumps off the page as abnormal. You have $500,000 increases in here, except for this one time, it's increasing $1 million. And when you're going to be $2.9 million short, $1 million is a lot of money. Actually, if I were looking at the average, it's 5, so it's $500,000 off. Not that it's incorrect, it looks odd, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, so in this week's update, I will give you a breakdown. I will give you how we come up with 1920 from 1819, and how we come up with 2021. So then it's more clear to you, because unfortunately, we cannot give you a breakdown. I will provide a breakdown for the update.
Both salaries and benefits jump more
Yeah.
in that period of time than the other.
Can I ask, so, again, with the MOU expiring, how many FTEs are you projecting will be increased in that year?
David,
Do you have a number for that?
Yeah, do you have information?
FTEs go up 8.
Full-time teachers.
Yeah.
It goes up 8 teachers for the MOU.
Sorry, what was that again?
8 teachers, so the
The increase in salaries and benefits is 18.
2021 goes up 8 teachers for the MOU, and it goes down 2 or 3 teachers for the declining enrollment.
Wait a minute, so like a net 5 then?
5 teachers, that'd be
I think it's net 6. I will double check and make sure it's not 3.
And And the employee benefit line includes the contribution to purchasers or not?
Yeah, including everything. So employee benefit including the store purse, health insurance, works comp, social security for classified employee. So everybody okay?
Sue.
Yeah, so you want to?
Yes, the second bullet talks about a reduction of school allocations. Our supplemental and concentration grant funding this year, we were given an amount to begin the year in September, which was like $6.5 million. We received notice that we had to cut this year $156,000 within this year after we had already had everybody budgeting. And so we looked at where the funds were being dispersed. And we looked at where we could cut without harming children and without taking away programs or people at this time. And so we looked at the site allocations and what schools had left in their amounts that hadn't been spent yet. And so this number of 185 actually is inclusive of the reduction of school allocation and the elimination of the summer institute. The reduction to the school allocations is actually $126,530. The thing that you may be asking is, well, how much is the total allocation? So the total allocation to our schools is $662,000 plus an additional $823,000 of Title I money. So our total allocation to schools is $1,485,000 for them to run their programs. So
$1 million.
$1,485,000 for them to run their programs. Another thing to understand is why this reduction. We had fewer students apply for free and reduced lunch, so our unduplicated count went down significantly this year. And we're funded in these funds based on our unduplicated students. We also have fewer students overall attending our schools this year. And so that is harming all of our budgets in terms of what we're counting on. And the assumptions that David has given us is that this reduction will continue. Next year, there will be an additional $150,000, and the following year, another $150,000. So we've begun a process with the administrators of looking at things that are, high priority that they want kept, things that are lower priority that they feel could be done another way. We don't want elimination of the good work that we've been doing, and so we're looking at, where something has to be cut, how can we cut the funding and replace it with a less expensive way, much the same way that Darwin looked at the legal fees and special ed. What's a less expensive way of providing the service? With these figures, $1,485,000 going to schools. The other piece of funding that goes out to our schools, there are just some examples of things that come from the district location that are directly planted in our schools serving our students. We have a vocal teacher and art teacher that are paid for from the supplemental and concentration funds that are not charged to the school. They come directly from the district funding. We have an associate principal at the high school. We pick up 20% of the counselors at the high school from our supplemental and concentration money. The wellness center administrator at the high school. We have one elementary school counselor that is paid for from these funds. We have interventionists that are serving at the 5 elementary schools. And so in addition to these funds, they also receive these services directly from the district funds into the schools. And so we've been very mindful to not, cut programs to the bone, but to look at what the excess is and what could be levied. We have some schools that had already expended all of their money before we looked at what we could cut, and so we're backfilling those schools that had already expended all of their funds.
We need to be really conservative this year because I heard yesterday that one of the apartment buildings down on Duarte that holds about 20 of our families raised their rent 30%. So those are free and reduced families, and they're probably going to move out of town because they can't afford the rent. So that's 20 families right there that are at risk.
So when you say that the number of free and reduced lunch students or families have gone down dramatically, it dramatically because our population has gone down, or because in proportion to our normal enrollment, it's gone down? Because in the past, we have had to go through and do a drive to get everybody to sign up, because they don't, for whatever reason you wanna pick. So
We don't
Wow.
know exactly what the cause is.
how big of a
at this
difference is
point.
there first?
Connie, what's the?
I think around 2%, right, before we always are undue per student count, which is contributed, generated the supplemental concentration is over 60%. Right now, we are 58.72. So it's less than 2%, and then,
And what's that amount to?
What
less
our
than
reduction
2%.
was 156,000 this
Yeah.
year.
156,000 for that, less than 2%.
That goes for 3 years, so it can't be that much.
For 3 years total, or each of the
Yeah,
next
each
3
of
years?
those 3
So it's an additional 150 next year, and an additional the following.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna guess that this is going to trend. I mean, it may be a reduction of just 2% now, but I'm thinking that's gonna continue to trend in that direction.
So one of the things that we did find was that the families who are leaving are those families who would qualify. So that clearly plays a role. But the other thing that we realized was that not everybody was submitting the applications who did qualify. And we need to make that as part of the routine process. So every family, regardless of where they fall, needs to just complete the items as part of their registration process, and
This is no difference than our drive for attendance every single year. I mean, you just can't stop, because the moment you do, it drops off. And I don't remember us making this a focus for a while.
right. So that's,
To me, that's a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, Brian, you have a very point. We realized that 2 years ago, we starting ask the online submission for the application. We thought this is efficient, productivity, but on the other hand, we realized that the family get used to receive information from Greenfield. So we're gonna continue to do that. So we're gonna
These
do
are also the
online.
families that are least likely to be able to sign up online.
Yeah, so
are the
we're gonna.
people that have no money.
Yeah, we're
Right,
continue
so-
to do
so
that.
again-
So online versus Greenfield application. The other things is, I think economy may contribute a little bit for the, because the free reduced meal, there's a family income threshold. So certain family may, have a little bit more money, and so probably they are no longer qualified for reduce, at least reduce. If you are free, then, if your income, depending on how much income additional income the family receive, at least you can free jump to reduce, but, the reduced one maybe will have less, because once your income increase a lot, then it is already automatically you are no longer qualified to reduce. So we will
But
look
those are
at
guesses.
Yeah.
Those are stabs. We know that we have not made a concerted effort to go for those students, and we should.
and we know that we can do a better job on it. Yeah, that is definitely part of the conversation we're having. And plans for next year. And why don't we go to the next slide to talk about some of the ideas that we have been.
I
Oh,
did actually have a
Okay,
question.
I'm sorry.
You just provided a lot of information very quickly with a lot of numbers, and for me, it was pretty overwhelming. Can you provide something for us with those numbers
Of
laid
course.
out? So that I can be sure that I understand everything that you just went over? And you started in your presentation saying, they told us that we needed to reduce our money.
The state,
The state, why?
because we did not have as many free and reduced unduplicated students.
Okay,
It was directly related to that.
thank you.
And the odd thing about that is that they allow us to start in August with one assumption of the budget, and then it comes in in February, saying that now you have this much less to spend, and we've already got all of our programs rolling, people hired, materials purchased. It's very difficult when it happens like that.
evaluation, you had a number of things on your list. What is the evaluation process? I know you said you didn't necessarily want to harm students. I don't have any examples, I'm not thinking of anything in particular, but wondering if maybe some of those things on your list, I guess what I'm wondering is how you evaluate those things on that list which are not gonna be cut versus things that you think maybe are less important. What is the process? I know Summer Institute, maybe that's not important in somebody's mind, but in other people's mind, that makes a big difference. I don't know, I'm just thinking what the evaluation process is. Decide the wellness center, we're gonna keep that. The counselors, we're gonna, deal with that. That was my
We
question.
went to the administrators and we had them do a priority exercise. And then Cabinet also did the same exercise internally with we opened all of our expenditures and took a look at, where we thought we could shave something down a little bit. And so, for instance, the Summer Institute, we looked at what the attendance has been, and it's starting to go down. In the beginning, it was hugely popular, and it's very expensive because we hire consultants to come in to teach our teachers, and it's very wonderful, but it's something that also, the alignment to a particular school's plan, it may not be as clean, and the principals really felt that they would like to have more control over what their people are learning in terms of alignment to their plans. So we sought opinions of our leaders throughout the district. With this initial, the timing was very short in terms of coming up with what we can do right now.
I have a follow-up question to that. So on that list, again, you've taken that list to cabinet and you've taken the list to the site administrators. I'm wondering, is there an avenue for teacher feedback on a site-by-site basis as far as here are the things that your admin called out at your site as maybe we could improve this or get bigger bang for buck somewhere? Is there an avenue for teacher feedback?
As we're going through our LCAP process right now, the thought exchange survey has been out and we're in the middle of our meetings. Those are input meetings where we can receive input on what the community and the teachers deem is important for their sites. And then also...
That's a little different though, because that's not...
but also allowing the principals to carry the message forward from what their people are. We trust that they have the pulse of their school families in mind.
I'm sure it's in mind. I'm not sure it's always at the same mind. So it might be good to have a little more direct input from teachers, and as far as like what you're seeing as the people in the classroom with the students, what they're perceiving as more effective versus less effective, and hold on to versus not.
Are you thinking there's different items that need to be on or off of that list?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, or different, or at least different priorities.
And looking forward, I think that's why we're starting this conversation for next year so early. The cuts that we made to school sites are not specific, and that's something that schools will need to develop on their own. And my guess is that touchstone that they'll be using to evaluate what they keep and what they don't has to be aligned with their single plan for student achievement. So maintaining those things that have been identified. And then looking ahead, trying to figure out how to shave and be mindful of the wants versus needs of all their constituents. And should be one of the conversations that's held.
I guess what I'm pushing is just that I would hate to lose the voice in the classroom as far as when we're evaluating bang for buck for different programs, and especially when we're looking, making trade-offs and making cuts. Because I think you need that. I think you need your boots on the ground perspective.
I agree.
Oh, I think it's more than that, because when we make cuts, I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I don't want to have different voices saying, we weren't heard, you didn't even take this into consideration, or you didn't know that we took it into consideration, and which leaves some bad feelings. So maybe we can figure out a way to make sure that it's incorporated in a more thoughtful way.
We can do that. Again, we'll be forecasting, the window for this year was very short. Allowing for lots of feedback and input was difficult to do because we needed to get it done by March 13th for this board meeting, once the state came to us. But moving ahead to 1920 and knowing that we're gonna have cuts, this is something that we can ask principals to go to their respective sites to get some input as well.
So, definitely the conversation's already started, Mr. Lam. So, the information we share with the board, share with MTF, share with the CSA, we definitely, as you, guiding us, that we're definitely, including this budget cut, we'll definitely hear what the classified or certificate MTF and the CSA say, their input. So here's some idea we listed here. The first idea is the enrollment and the attendance. The state is funding us per student's level, and then give us a quota on the per student's level. So enrollment attendance direct impact our revenue. So this year, with the rain, with the cold, weather, our enrollment, our attendance definitely compared with previous years decreased. So my office and David, we already share with all the principal and say that we specifically email each principal, tell them that the number we have at the end of February, what we have in the last year, what is specific feedback, the reason caused the reduce of attendance. The feedback is flu, cold weather, and also cause that. So the next level say, okay, we have a plan, the plan B. Plan B is we want each principal to share with this news with all the parents. We have Saturday school. So
Saturday school.
Yeah, Saturday school. Yeah, Saturday school makeup so that for the students who is absent from as a P2 cutoff day, which is March 22nd, as fast as they can come attend our Saturday school, the makeup absent, so they can bump up our attendance. So
have we already implemented that another Saturday school before March 22nd?
So let me clarify, Anthony, hope, I want to make sure I give you the correct message, is it's not the date the Saturday school, the date of Saturday school, it's the date when the kid's absent. For example, as far as the kids are absent before March 22nd, they can attend Saturday school after March 22nd to make up that day. Okay. So we are concerned because currently we are allocated the school side based on the enrollment, not based on attendance. So we are thinking about move forward. We may allocate the school side allocation based on their attendance attendance, not the enrollment, because the state fund the district based on attendance. So that's one of the budget cut idea, because our school never have 120% attendance ratio. So that is kind of encourages the principal to increase attendance, and then along with the allocation motivations. So the second one is.
Before you look at that, would you please look at how that impacts our underprivileged families?
Okay.
Because I think families without transportation, it's harder for some of them to get to school. And so we don't want to unduly impact those schools that have a lot of
Okay.
that kind of.
Higher.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure how you look at that, but it's certainly a consideration when we.
Yeah. We will do some research, depend on their percentage on the free reducement percentage as well as the unduplicated percentage. Yeah. And about I'm not quite sure where our unduplicated students percentage shift a little bit. So it's very interesting.
Shift from site to site?
Yes, because those sites we thought is higher unduplicate students count, it's no longer, that case.
I think our highest unduplicated count is Wild Rose now, right? With our elementary schools? But, and I also think that their attendance has gone up. So,
We do a lot of Saturday schools.
Good job, Wild Rose.
Their principal is very anxious.
That's just, but that's anecdotal, I
Actually,
think we
we
need to
did
go back.
last year, and we've done almost one a month, I
Yeah.
wanna say, pretty much.
And also, I'm thinking that Mr. Gilliland said is, the schools that have different programs that bring in students from out of the district, we need to consider, that they're coming from a few cities away, and we need to be able to, get them into Saturday schools or have them accounted for, because
Make up.
attendance and tardiness is a bigger issue for them because they're coming far away.
Is it possible, instead of having it on a Saturday, to have it on a Wednesday?
No,
Yeah.
we tried. That's-
And why
I can
didn't-
answer you very quickly, because we tried. We won't be funded. We can't submit that, so. But great idea, because I thought of it too.
All right, I'm gonna transition to the next one. So similar to our special ed audit of legal fees, you may be well aware that there are also legal fees over in the Human Resources Department as well as possibly Student Support Services. So we're in the process of possibly seeking alternative legal representation. This coming Monday, actually, we're meeting with a joint powers of attorney, similar to what you would consider a pool of attorneys, like health and welfare benefits pool, where we realize a significant savings there. Kathy's done some research, and we may have found a group that's providing additional resources and the same level of services in this JPA. So we'll have more information on that one here in probably the next week or two. Question on that?
Okay, and the next thing that we're looking at doing is our summer school locations. We typically use.
Oh, you skipped over professional development?
Oh, professional development, travel and conference, we're looking at reductions in travel and conference, looking for experiences for our teachers that are less expensive, or sending fewer teachers, having them come back and share with their colleagues, and then looking at how we can begin to reduce the use of consultants, using some of our internal people, you know, for Monrovia, by Monrovia, like our conference last Friday. It can be very motivating for teachers to learn from one another.
That's a real common suggestion from teachers, is to decrease the number of external consultants and to utilize our skill base we have within the district. It's a real common suggestion.
Not only that, they get a choice. I think they really appreciate having the choice of what
Yes.
things they will feel like they want to be stronger in, and they can choose
Our
that.
conference
Good positive
is
feedback from that.
hugely
Yeah.
successful.
When
You
they
know,
give them a choice, it
It's
makes a big
because
difference.
of you teachers around this table and the way you engage in the learning.
And that
It's so
conference
good.
has evolved each year and gotten better each year. They've done a great job.
And another thing that we're looking at in terms of saving some funding is to reduce the number of sites that have summer school, not the number of programs. So we would have multiple programs on a school site instead of having lots of school sites open. And that would save us in terms of utilities and terms of staffing that are the classified staff that are manning offices and doing that sort of work. And it would also allow us to have our custodial staff work as a team and go in and deeply clean school sites that are dark. And then once the summer school ends, then they can go in as a team to those schools and clean those as a team.
What are transportation for those?
We have, last year was the first year that we ran any transportation. And we're looking at not doing transportation this year.
Then as you look at this, please be very careful that you don't impact those students that don't have transportation.
That's been a comment from teachers as well, just being concerned about that we're not cutting off services to the kids who need it most because of the transportation issue.
And ESY still has transportation.
We will still have transportation.
I wanted to go back to professional development bullet, and as Mr. Drew mentioned earlier, the PDs that you choose to cut or curtail, I'd love to see teacher input on that. What should, you know, what would be preferred to be kept, and what could, you know, be cut.
Mainly, the professional development has become more and more a site-based decision-making function. And so those decisions are made primarily by the school leadership teams, along with the principal and the teacher leaders within the school, aligning it to their school plans.
would add also the same thing for consultants as well, as, I know we've talked about this over the years, is just trying to pare down the amount of consultants, but those of, maybe the evaluation process for consultants as well, as to what the district sees as a need and what teachers see as useful in consultants.
I have a question about thought exchange. Is that, I know we have a contract, and I wasn't here back then, whenever that was negotiated, but is there an additional cost every time you launch?
No.
So it can really be utilized here. So we're talking about getting teacher feedback. Why not use thought exchange for that feedback that's specific? And that way they're free to, get on their phone or get on their email and provide that feedback. So I think we're underutilizing a tool that we have to
It'd
get
be
that
nice,
feedback.
especially because with professional development and because so much of it is site-based, it would make more sense for each site to identify, here's the consultant we used, here's the PD we had, here are the ones that we thought were valuable, and here are the ones that we don't see making much of a difference. And then it would really be targeted.
We often get asked after a PD what we thought of that particular PD, but I don't think I've ever seen something like that where, here's your consultants, rate them, or what do you think is beneficial from them? I think it'd be great.
What did you get out of this? What didn't work? What do you think was a waste of time? Get that feedback.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes, so let's not get too deep into it.
But we can do that. We can do that by site.
Darcy, you want to touch base?
Program review, Sue, do you want to touch upon that just a little bit?
Oh, program review, yes. We are looking at all of our, large programs that have, large dollar amounts and even our smaller programs. And again, we're taking it to, the administrators, to the constituents, to see what we can do in terms of reducing cost of programs that come into our schools. And, are there less expensive ways of delivering the same types of service? And, one thing that comes to mind is, again, I go back to, Darvin's example with looking at different legal fees. We have some programs that are very expensive in our district, and there may be other ways of looking at them and paring them down. And if we pare down a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, collectively, those reductions can help to get us where we need to go.
Can you give us some examples of programs?
When I'm just, thinking off the top of my head, probably not, because I don't want to misspeak. Right?
You know what, what we need to do is put a list of programs. If I were to mention a program today off the top of my head, and if you're in charge of that program, you're gonna start saying, wait, you're looking at my program? And I haven't. So I don't want to unnecessarily alarm anybody either. But yes, we'll need to put everything down and identify.
And as we do that, I'll give you one specific example. When we worked with our administrators and said, what do you really value? One of the programs in our elementary schools are the interventionists that are working with our neediest students. And we went from half-time interventionists to hearing the cry of, don't all the kids need some help? All the grade levels, they're full-time now, and that's paid for out of our Supplemental Concentration and our Title I funding. As we looked at prioritizing, for our elementary principals, that became the number one. Don't get rid of our interventionists. And I hear the same thing from teachers. And so that's an example of a program that we're looking at that's very expensive, but evaluating it, what's the value, and are we getting results with kids, with those people that are working with the programs in the school? And the answer is yes. And they're using a rather expensive computer program called iReady. It's getting results, so we're not looking at making that cut, even though it's expensive.
1 minute.
Charles?
I'll be a little bit of a taskmaster here, because this is really important, but fleshing out the details is so important at this point.
Right.
But we need to understand it, so.
We'll take a look at phone and data plans as well. Many years ago, these plans used to be E-rate eligible. They're no longer E-rate eligible, so there are other districts that are we've taken a look at telephone plans and data plans, considering whether or not it's in the best interest of districts to cancel them, possibly move over the stipends. We're also looking at some of the plans closely. We do see areas where there may be very little usage with some of the plans, so possibly working with those that have those plans to see whether or not it's absolutely necessary and making some of those cuts.
You mentioned E-rate. E-rate is basically a program that gives us a discount,
Correct.
it's like a coupon?
It's reimbursement, yes.
Darvin, very quickly, special ed.
Very quickly, we want to continue to maintain the quality of services that we are providing for our special needs students, but just find alternative methods to be able to provide those services. So potentially hiring an internal staff member versus contracting out, and with our non-public schools, assessing programs based on the needs of our students and potentially providing services again internally. We want to provide additional supports for our students, knowing that there may be several students in the class that require the same type of supports instead of hiring additional one-on-ones. And then just analyzing the number at CSEA as well, where there's the number of extra hour assignments that we have, and is there a possibility that there's another way that we can provide the same services, maybe with fewer people, because there's a significant amount of people out working extra hour assignments. Staffing ratios, in short, we have a certificated staffing ratio. We're in the process of creating administrative staffing ratios as well as classified staffing ratios. And then finally, for my part, just reviewing sub-cost in line with professional developments, a number of times, teachers are out. Are there other ways that we can provide those supports without incurring additional sub-costs?
I want to go back to special ed really quick.
Okay.
I think we all understand the costs associated with the program as a whole. One of the things we had identified in the past that I don't see up there is that this district seems to have a higher percentage of special education students than the surrounding districts. And I need to know and understand why. Is it because we just are a magnet and all of these students need this? Are different districts evaluating differently? Why is there such a huge discrepancy? We understand the cost per child is significant. And it's not that I want to reduce any services, but I want to better understand what's going on.
So you're asking them to add special ed classification as one of the bullets under this?
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
We'll add that. Yeah, it's something that we are doing anyway, we should have added it. Yeah.
On sub-costs, one of the things that I heard yesterday was that at the middle school and the high schools, teachers during prep periods can step in, can step in and help. Do you take teachers from prep periods at middle and high schools and bring them to the elementary schools to help? Okay, because that would
And
be too involved.
No,
Okay.
and really at the high school level and the middle school level, when we ask for period coverage, it's because we have too many teachers out and not enough subs for them. And we'd rather reduce the number of teachers out of the classroom.
Okay.
At least I'd rather do that. It's better for teachers, and it's better for students.
Because we don't want to have them lose their prep time because they need that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, that's an ongoing concern for many teachers at the secondary level, is being pulled out constantly during the week. And
During
losing,
their- During their prep time
pulled
to
out during their
cover,
prep time
or?
to cover because there's a lack of subs.
Okay.
That's an ongoing concern and issue for a lot of folks.
Okay, last items. So, utility saving, when we look at the district operation cost, utility, including the water, electricity, gas, it's a lot. So, we work with a consultant, actually it's free, not paid, and they are willing to do free assessment based on our utility bill. Is there any improvement we can do to reduce the utility cost district-wide?
As far as that goes, and this kind of goes to our our consultant who's looking at all the deferred maintenance. Hopefully that those items are noted where they need us to make changes. If there's going to be a cost savings, either because the rooms are so poorly insulated, or any other energy lost, type thing would be good to know.
Or the HVAC, maybe that's what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At one point, this district had a energy conservation czar, I call him, dollars. And actually, the savings we had paid for the salary for several years, but it got down to where we weren't making that much gain, and so we got rid of that position.
It may be time to reconsider
It
it.
may be time to look at
And our bills started going up after we lost them, because that
Really?
person, absolutely it
Oh,
did.
yeah.
For example, one of the small things was,
Coffee and refrigerators.
classrooms weren't supposed to have, I'm just gonna call them personal appliances for lack of better terms. And the moment that person left, they all came back, and there goes our bills. Things stopped getting turned off. There just stopped to be a vigilance. All very small things, but when you multiply it by every classroom in the district, it can be up there. And it's just not the district, I mean, it's everywhere, not just classrooms, rather.
It's at the district office as well.
Well, it just came up in our negotiation session last week, and so one of our suggestions was to take a look at, on a site basis, okay, so what's our utility expenditure like per student? You know,
Sure.
where are we having higher expenditures per student versus lower expenditures per student, and then trying to figure out why is that? Are there some savings, or like you said, low-hanging fruit, we can kind of address it then?
That's great.
I know for, in your home, the energy companies will come in and do an evaluation for free. Is that something that?
That's exactly what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Okay. So, Bob, we already did assessment, we have some idea, some side is per student's wise high, and, the only explanation I can see is premise. Premise is unreasonable high, so we just got information, so I think HVAC, because all their HVAC is exceeding their lifetime, so, but I do want to dig more, okay? So here's the last slide. So our next step is we're submitted for Board of Food tonight for the second interim report, and after that we'll submit to the county. And based on all the idea we discussed, we're gonna quantify to see how much in terms of the dollar amount saving. And then we will continue, if for board request, we'll continue on the side section from now to June at our budget. And then once the governor releases the May revision, so there's a possibility the guideline for the revenue such as CORA may be changes. So any changes for the guideline for the STIR person and any assumption we will share with the board, MET and CSA accordingly. And then we are required by Ed Code, the first board meeting in June, we will starting a public hearing. Our budget have to be done by end of May, so that we can start in public hearing. And then the June 26th is the second board meeting. We will submit adult budget for board approval.
Anybody got any more questions, final thoughts?
I would just say, as we continue to look at potential cuts and budget adjustments, that we need to be looking at programmatic staffing and other changes to deal with our declining enrollment expense. Because, as I'm sure you guys have been briefed and looked at, just reducing teaching staff for lost classroom full of kids only covers about 40% of the lost revenue. So we need to be looking at structural cuts to scale down as a whole, if we're going to continue to face that issue.
I'd like to know what everyone thinks would help our enrollment. I know that it can't have anything to do with housing because we don't have control over that. But what things are working, what things could work to help bring up our enrollment that we have control over? So it looks sad. I know we don't have control over the cost of housing, but what things,
Well, that's the other side of the budget that we're not talking about looking at, and we probably should look at what are the other revenue generators.
maybe
Should
it's,
we be expanding to do a million successfully and what might that look like? I don't know how you fit all that in, Dr. T, but.
Just put it on my to-do
But it
list,
is,
President Gilbert.
it is part of that whole budget thing, is how do we increase the revenue?
Yeah. And how do you quantify, which of the programs have brought in people and which have not? Yeah.
That does bring in people, and not to put a downer on this, but isn't there legislation now in effect for dual language? And aren't all the districts going to be picking up programs like this? So although I think we've been great and successful and we've, rolled out our programs way ahead of everybody, I think we need to think about other,
That's part of the whole look at it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,